Here is Immortal Moments for explanation. Friends, like videos and subscribes to our channel. Swallowed Star 2 Land of Origin Part 104 Explanation. So let's start our explanation. The Land of Origin, at the peak of the high mountain on Primordial Island. What confuses you the most right now should be how to escape the braided cage. Senior Yuan sat down, and with a wave of his hand, fine wine appeared on the table, a pot in front of each of them, Luo Feng and him. Gurgle 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 tilde tilde tilde. Yuan drank casually, glancing at Luo Feng. Let's drink and chat together. Yes. Only then did Luo Feng pick up his pot of wine, took a sip, and said, Please, Senior Yuan, guide me on how to escape the braided cage. You are a fusion Dao cultivator with an extraordinary talent. For you, a compatible high-level primordial bloodline can easily be comprehended over 70%. Yuan said. Luo Feng nodded. The road ahead of you can be divided into two paths. One is to first become a world-level primordial life and then strive to cultivate into a primordial lord. The second is to comprehend the primordial level Dao directly, break laws with force, and directly become a primordial lord. Yuan, as the first lord of the entire cultivator camp, has been exploring the cultivation path, so he is naturally familiar with these ideas. Luo Feng listened carefully, as this concerned his future. To become a world-level primordial life, there are two ways. One is to rely on a world-level primordial bloodline to become a world-level primordial life. After breakthrough, your thinking speed will increase 1 billion-fold compared to now, and your comprehension will also transform. With such comprehension and speed of thinking, there is a glimmer of hope to comprehend the primordial level Dao. Yuan gently shook his head. The only drawback is that the primordial bloodline will add a bloodline will within you, and the bloodline insights will also pollute your memory. Will pollution and bloodline pollution are the drawbacks of this path. Among the 7 current lords, only one lord, Nai Jiyu, walked this path. Yuan looked at Luo Feng. He comprehended the primordial bloodline Dao, mastering the essence of bloodlines, and even integrated the bloodlines of multiple primordial ancestors into himself. Luo Feng was secretly shocked at what he heard. Integrating the bloodlines of multiple primordial ancestors into oneself? Mastering the essence of the bloodline Dao? How powerful must such an existence be? No wonder it's said that every lord is an existence wielding the highest level of power in the infinite primordial space. 7 lords can contend with the entire innate primordial life camp to such an extent. The second way to become world-level primordial is to first refine the hometown source world and become the master of the source world. This path has no will pollution, no memory pollution. It can be said to be the smoothest path. Among the 7 lords, 5 have taken this path. I also took this path. Luo Feng's eyes lit up upon hearing this. 7 lords, and 5 chose this path. How to refine the hometown source world? Luo Feng asked. The method has long been spread across various world groups. Yuan said, First, you must master more than half of the origin great Dao of the source world, reaching at least the 2nd realm of Godly King. Second, spread faith to thoroughly influence all creatures. The path of faith is extremely difficult. Yuan looked at Luo Feng. Your talent and potential in illusion technique are very average, not suitable for the path of faith. You are skilled in too few Dao, so this path of refining the hometown source world is not suitable for you. Yuan spoke decisively. Luo Feng nodded in acknowledgement. Comprehending at least 5 Daos compatible with the source world origin? Luo Feng couldn't see the hope. Illusion technique? Luo Feng probably couldn't even rank in the top 1,000 in the dark sacred realm, so how could he possibly explore the path of faith? Finally, it is to break laws with force. Yuan looked at Luo Feng. As a half-primordial life, directly comprehend the primordial level Dao. Master the highest level of power in the infinite primordial space, and achieve lordship. Before the Lord, Starlight, we did not believe that a half-primordial life could comprehend the primordial level Dao. But Lord Starlight did it. Yuan looked at Luo Feng. Starlight, he comprehended the primordial space-time path. As a half-primordial level, he achieved lordship by breaking laws with force. After becoming a lord, his speed of thought and comprehension was even higher. This advanced his strength even further. In terms of strength and threat to the innate primordial life camp, Starlight ranks first among the 7 lords. Yuan said, his contributions to the cultivator camp, I believe, have even surpassed mine. Luo Feng had heard about this before. Yuan, as the first lord, has been gracious to countless cultivators, and his contributions to the whole cultivator camp should be the greatest. But Yuan at this moment believed that Starlight's contributions were greater. Luo Feng thought. Yuan must be humble. But it also proves the strength of Starlight. You'll understand in the future. Yuan did not say more. Refining the source world is not suitable for you. Yuan looked at Luo Feng, so in front of you, there are only 2 roads. One is to rely on a world-level primordial bloodline. The second is to break laws with force. This road of breaking laws with force is extremely difficult. You must know, even as a master of the source world, those who comprehend the primordial level Tao are few and far between. Yuan looked at Luo Feng, most are still trapped at the level of master of the source world. Luo Feng nodded. He could understand. Most masters of the source world couldn't comprehend it. For a half-primordial life to comprehend the primordial level Tao? That's truly unbelievable. If you plan to rely on a world-level primordial bloodline, I advise you to first carefully comprehend it, to penetrate over 70% before refining. Yuan said, in this way, the mastery over the bloodline will be more exquisite and the will and memory pollution will be less. Luo Feng nodded, I understand. I've said all that needs to be said, which path to take, you must choose for yourself. Yuan pointed to a small building in the distance, I have also prepared a gift for you there. Study it well. Yes, Luo Feng responded. Yuan nodded and then disappeared into thin air. He truly was very busy. If it were an ordinary invincible level cultivator, Yuan wouldn't say so much. Prepared some resources? Luo Feng immediately walked towards the distant small building, where only a silver bracelet was placed. Luo Feng touched the silver bracelet, and with a single thought, he had refined it. Buzz. After refining the silver bracelet, Luo Feng immediately became aware of its function. The silver bracelet contained storage space and stored some resources. At the same time, it also recorded his reward points. Ordinary resources in the land of origin are free, precious resources must be exchanged with reward points. Luo Feng slightly sensed, somewhat surprised, can infinite space reward points also be used here? The land of origin possesses almost all treasures of the cultivator camp. The treasure trove's vastness is countless times larger than that of the infinite space treasure vault. Even high-level primordials and world-level primordials exchange there. My reward points are slightly over 10,210,000. Luo Feng looked at his account. 200,000 reward points were the rewards for the spiritual will breaking free of the braided cage. Over 10,000 points were what remained from infinite space. 10 million reward points were the rewards obtained by the half-primordial fusion path cultivator. The cultivator camp assumes this level to be capable of achieving world-level primordial, and naturally, the reward points granted are high. This bracelet also has a messaging function. 87,342,513 high-level primordials, 237 world-level primordials, 7 lords, all have contact information. Luo Feng familiarized himself with some messaging functions before understanding. The infinite primordial space is immensely vast, even a lord traveling from one place to another may take a long time. Hence, messaging so far away and vast is very difficult. The messaging through this bracelet is because those who break free of the braided cage in the cultivator camp all have avatars in the land of origin, making it naturally easy for everyone to contact each other. 7 lords. Luo Feng only learned the names of the 7 lords through contact information. Of course, the cultivators in the land of origin dare not contact the 7 lords directly without special reasons. The 7 lords are currently dealing with a war that will decide the fate of cultivators, and no one would easily disturb them. My cave mansion has so many functions. After refining the bracelet, Luo Feng quickly understood the cave mansion's role. This cave mansion is specifically prepared for the successive half-primordial fusion path cultivators. Half-primordials think too slowly. Even to comprehend world-level primordial bloodline usually takes a very long time. So the cave mansion's secret chamber can accelerate time. Luo Feng slightly sensed. For a half-primordial, long-term time acceleration costs are low. This cultivation secret chamber's time acceleration formation was personally arranged by Starlight Lord and can maintain a million-fold time acceleration at its highest. An epoch would pass outside, while a million epochs would have passed inside. The entire cave mansion has infinite energy supply, constantly nourishing the physical body and soul. My current thinking speed is about 1,000 times that of the dark sacred realm, and my soul is without any discomfort. Luo Feng noticed the advantages here. I have permission in this cave mansion to view any primordial bloodline type in its entirety owned by the cultivator camp. Also, view any material. This exceeds the combined power of the Eye of Life and Death and the Wisdom Book. Luo Feng immediately understood why some exchanges would return the Wisdom Book. Returning it can refund reward points. Moreover, the ability to observe all things in the land of origin far surpasses the Eye of Life and Death and the Wisdom Book. This cave mansion is invaluable. Luo Feng was somewhat excited. Assisting cultivation, time acceleration, observing all things, life and death trials, these are just the free features. Luo Feng can exchange some precious resources using reward points. The cultivator camp provides immense resource support to every half-primordial fusion path cultivator. At the very least, this path has produced a lord from a world-level primordial before. 7 lords, 1 follows the bloodline path, 1 uses the power-breaking technique, and 5 become lords by mastering the source world origins. In front of me, only the first 2 paths are available. Lord Naijiyu succeeded because he followed the primordial bloodline Dao, and the bloodline was the support for his cultivation path. No one else on the bloodline path succeeded in becoming a lord. Luo Feng pondered, sensing vaguely that the bloodline path had big issues. You must know that in history, fusion path cultivators mostly followed this path, yet only Naijiyu succeeded. No matter what. I'll first try to break laws with force. With desire in his eyes, Luo Feng thought. Anyone confident in themselves will first attempt to comprehend the primordial level Tao. Only when utterly despairing will they choose the bloodline path. End of the volume. Taking a day off tomorrow to prepare, updates will resume the day after, starting volume 10, Breaking Laws with Force. To prevent book shortages, let me recommend 2 recent books I've read. One is Sword from the Tang Dynasty, and the other is Duke. Land of Origin, Primordial Island. Luo Feng walked into the quiet room of the cave mansion, and before him was a vast space, a complete space-time. Maintain 1,000,000 times time acceleration. Luo Feng spoke softly, and instantly the flow of time in this complete space-time changed. In the outside world, 1 second passed, while in this space-time, 1,000,000 seconds passed. Luo Feng smiled, familiarizing himself with the many other functions. Many functions of the cave mansion were arranged by the lords. The lords expended a lot of effort on the land of origin. My path of cultivation does not borrow from any inheritance, but it requires the study of numerous primordial bloodlines and corpse materials. Luo Feng began to investigate. All the primordial bloodlines possessed by the cultivator camp are here in the land of origin, and every primordial bloodline can be observed in its entirety. So many. Luo Feng was somewhat shocked. Over 800 million types of low-level primordial bloodlines, more than 5 million types of high-level primordial bloodlines, over 30,000 types of world-level primordial bloodlines, and the corresponding corpse materials are all available for observation. The innate primordial life camp has recorded over 99% of low-level primordial bloodlines, 100% of high-level primordial bloodlines, and 100% of world-level primordial bloodlines, mainly recorded by the Lord Starlight. Luo Feng was truly stunned. The races of the world-level primordials, over 30,000 kinds, and all recorded? How many world-level primordials did this Starlight Senior kill? Luo Feng thought. Many world-level primordials are of the same race. Like the innate primordial life camp, the most powerful race is the infinite Great Serpent race, with reportedly more than 10 ancestor levels, and even more world-level primordials. This suggests just how terrifying the number of world-level primordials killed by the cultivator camp is. No wonder places like the Dark Sacred Realm, which are only guarded by 2 high-level primordials, even through 7 world-level primordial corpses. The number is simply overwhelming. No wonder the Eye of Life and Death only needed 120,000 reward points to be redeemed. Luo Feng thought, realizing that world-level primordial corpses are too common for the entire cultivator camp. The more intense the war between the 2 camps, the more corpses there are. Mainly recorded by Starlight Senior. Luo Feng understood the weight of this statement. The innate primordial life camp, below the ancestor level. All high-level primordial bloodlines, world-level primordial bloodlines, were completely recorded by Starlight Senior. Even the countless and innumerable low-level primordial lives, over 99% were collected. What a terrifying god of slaughter! How afraid must the innate primordial life camp be of this Starlight Senior? Of course, Starlight Senior was also very patient, tirelessly collecting low-level primordial bloodlines. First apply to observe the world-level primordial bloodline Blackwater Monarch. Luo Feng submitted an observation request through the bracelet, and instantly, the vast space of this quiet room revealed the full view of a world-level primordial bloodline. The grand illusion of the bloodline itself appeared in the quiet room. The internal secret patterns of the bloodline, all layers were fully displayed. Blackwater Monarch is one of the pinnacle existences among world-level primordials. The mystery of life occupies 33%, destruction mystery occupies 47%, while matter mystery, causality mystery, and other mysteries become increasingly rare, with a total of 19 mysteries. The database contains detailed introductions of the Blackwater Monarch bloodline, which can assist Luo Feng in comprehending and understanding. All the bloodlines and materials of all things recorded in the land of origin can be observed. Luo Feng sighed inwardly. The importance of the Eye of Life and Death and the Wisdom Book is greatly diminished. The cultivator camp has not recorded any ancestor-level bloodline. Luo Feng noticed this point. According to the database introduction, the ancestor bloodline contains the highest level of unlimited primordial power. To this day, no life has been able to extract a complete ancestor-level bloodline. Even the Lord Nijiu cannot do it. The land of origin also has the material teleportation capability. Luo Feng discovered this point. As long as the target is locked and is a dead thing, it can be teleported over infinite distances. Back when exchanging for the treasures of the infinite space, those treasures were directly teleported to the interior of the source continent from an endlessly distant distance. It was this technique. But it is limited to lifeless matter. Any life wanting to teleport over great distances will face a significant impact. Teleport the Star Tower, Eye of Life and Death, Wisdom Book, and Sky-Splitting Saber all over here. Luo Feng thought, knowing that only in the land of origin could he better research the Star Tower and Sky-Splitting Saber. In Huyang City, in the city owner's mansion quiet room on the source continent. One avatar of Luo Feng watched the Star Tower, Eye of Life and Death, Wisdom Book, and Sky-Splitting Saber in front of him. But once these 4 treasures were locked, they instantly disappeared without a trace. Luo Feng watched this scene. The infinite primordial space is boundlessly vast, but Starlight Senior's expertise in spacetime is too high, and this method of teleporting material over infinite distances was created by Starlight Senior. Phew. Luo Feng walked out of the quiet room, standing on the pavilion of the city owner's mansion, gazing outside the source continent. If the sky falls, the tall would shoulder the weight. But in the current source continent, Luo Feng is the tallest. Even the ancestors of the 2 countries obey Luo Feng's commands one by one. The war situation is dire. Even the best outcome might require losing most of the territory. The worst case is losing all the territory. Luo Feng felt an overwhelmingly heavy pressure. This is his homeland. His family and friends, his human compatriots, countless creatures all thrive and live here. If the Dark World group falls, his homeland, land of origin, will be heavily targeted, and what would happen to countless creatures when the source world is destroyed? Even with the so-called migration plan. But the land of origin is only so large, and the number of creatures he can take with him will certainly be very limited. In the face of the entire innate primordial life camp, to turn the tide, to protect the homeland. Even if I become a world-level primordial, it's useless. Luo Feng understood this clearly. One only had to see how many enemy world-level primordials the cultivator camp had killed to comprehend. World-level primordials, probably in the thousands or tens of thousands, would only be sent to their deaths before the Lord and ancestors. Only by becoming a Lord can one truly affect the battle. Luo Feng thought to himself. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Land of origin, primordial island, inside a quiet room. Luo Feng looked at the 4 treasures that appeared before him. Let's refund the wisdom book. With a thought, Luo Feng communicated with the land of origin. The wisdom book could analyze everything, but the analytical abilities of the land of origin itself were stronger than those of the wisdom book. Luo Feng had the authority to view all primordial bloodlines and materials without restrictions. He refunded the wisdom book and was credited 200,000 reward points. The Eye of Life and Death allows me, a life within the braided cage, to have an external perspective. Luo Feng put away the Eye of Life and Death, which appeared at his brow. With my current observational abilities, they probably surpass most high-level primordial life. Luo Feng sensed his own progress. On one hand, he comprehended the half-primordial life and death path, which enabled the Eye of Life and Death to exert stronger power. On the other hand, his spiritual will also leaped out of the braided cage, allowing him to delve deeper into the Eye of Life and Death's capabilities. The Eye of Life and Death's abilities, perhaps, only being utilized 1 or 2% of the time currently. Yet, this was crafted from the corpse of a world-class primordial life highly skilled in observation. 1 or 2% is already above most high-level primordial life. Luo Feng observed the full form of the world-level primordial bloodline, Black Water Monarch, suspended in the distance. With the Eye of Life and Death, he observed more easily and thoroughly, able to detect critical nodes within. I've always had trouble probing the deeper secret patterns of the Star Tower blood scale. Let's test the abilities of the land of origin. Luo Feng thought. Land of origin, observe the full form of the Star Tower, blood scale. Luo Feng submitted an observation request. The abilities of the land of origin began to infiltrate the Star Tower, penetrating into that internal blood-colored scale. But this is one of the 3 blood scales of the primordial ancestor, Wanxing ancestor. In the second war between the innate primordial life camp and the cultivator camp, the Wanxing ancestor died in battle. The 3 blood scales are also known as the immortal scale. To this day, no way has been found to destroy it. Across the entire infinite primordial space, there has been no method discovered to fully probe its entirety. The land of origin can only glimpse about 80% of its secret pattern mysteries. After submitting the application, Luo Feng received a response. Subsequently, an immensely large virtual shadow of the blood scale appeared in this vast time and space, occupying nearly half of the broad expanse. Within the enormous virtual shadow of the blood scale, countless secret patterns manifested. This? Luo Feng flew into the gigantic virtual shadow of the blood scale, with the Eye of Life and Death at his brow watching the transformations of numerous secret patterns. This is much more enriched than what I previously glimpsed. Luo Feng was somewhat shocked, but unfortunately, the entire infinite primordial space has no way to fully view the blood scale. Even the 80% portion is much more complex than world-level primordial bloodline. Luo Feng, on the contrary, felt very encouraged. The more he observed, the more he realized that the half-primordial life and death path within the braided cage required a tremendous amount of supplementation to be comparable to the mysteries of the ancestor-level bloodline. Reaching that point might provide a hope to achieve the primordial life and death Tao. Luo Feng did not rush to cultivate but first gathered a massive amount of information to formulate a detailed cultivation plan. He knew very well that without a clear plan and direction, it would be impossible to break laws with force. Daoist Luo Feng, I am Cheng, I too am from the Dark World Group. Our Dark World Group has produced a total of 13,922 high-level primordial life. There hasn't been a world-level primordial life born. More than 10,000 high-level primordial life from our shared homeland want to visit you. Do you have time? This high-level primordial life, named Cheng, proactively messaged Luo Feng. Luo Feng was a bit surprised to receive the message. To high-level primordial life, being from the same world group indeed counted as being compatriots. After all, most source worlds couldn't even produce a single high-level primordial life. More than 10,000 high-level primordial life want to visit me. Luo Feng also noticed that only Cheng messaged him, while the other high-level primordial life didn't disturb him. They must have agreed on this, otherwise, thousands upon thousands of messages would indeed be bothersome. You all want to meet me? Luo Feng replied. He was also happy to meet them. Chatting with these fellow countrymen, after all, these over 10,000 high-level primordial life have existed a long time. Some may even have lifetimes longer than Yuan. Their knowledge in many respects probably exceeds his own. We can't enter Primordial Island. Cheng responded, we can choose a place outside the island, and we more than 10,000 high-level primordial life will collectively welcome Daoist Luo Feng. Okay, you choose the place. Luo Feng said, as for the meeting time, make it soon. After a period, I'll be entering seclusion. Cheng sighed with relief. It was fortunate they were smart and contacted him as soon as they learned about Luo Feng. They understood one thing upon learning about Luo Feng's intelligence. This Daoist Luo Feng, as the first world-class primordial to emerge from the Dark World Group, would naturally be the leader of these over 10,000 high-level primordial life. In the land of origin, by the Purple Jade Lake, numerous high-level primordial creatures arrived here one after another. Thousands of high-level primordial creatures gathered together and began to chat familiarly. I've heard that this Daoist Luo Feng is a half-primordial fusion Dao cultivator. Is there any doubt about it? He's currently residing at the peak of the mountain on Primordial Island, witnessed by countless cultivators on the island. You all need not worry, my avatar has already descended to the Dark Sacred Realm and captured the scenes where Daoist Luo Feng battled a primordial prisoner. Even without breaking out of the braided cage, Luo Feng already possesses strength beyond imagination. Oh? Can you provide me a copy of the scenes where he battled the primordial prisoner? These high-level primordial creatures were quite concerned with Luo Feng's potential. This? Powerful without breaking out of the braided cage. It's truly incredible. 1 tells 10, 10 tells 100. With the spread of the battle footage of Luo Feng and the lava prisoner, any lingering unease had now settled. From now on, we will just calmly follow Daoist brother Luo Feng. Daoist brother Luo Feng's talent guarantees his achievement of becoming a world-level primordial. The high-level primordial creatures of our Dark World Group will have good days ahead. These high-level primordial creatures were somewhat elated, and the more they learned about Luo Feng, the more they realized that support they were about to embrace was indeed substantial. In a picturesque, expansive cave mansion in the land of origin, a colossal figure coiled within was sleeping, its entire surface covered with deep purple scales. On closer inspection, each scale was crystalline and semi-transparent, hosting vast spaces naturally within, with endless fiery power contained in each scale's space. Brother Shuhua. A figure of a woman clad in a green robe flew unimpeded into the cave mansion. What is it? The colossal figure slowly opened its eyes, its pupils containing countless fiery stars experiencing life and death. He normally maintained a bloodline form to better delve into the potential of his bloodline. Brother Shuhua, are you unaware that you have tens of thousands of high-level primordial creatures under your command planning to pledge allegiance to a new cultivator? The woman in green quickly said, they are all high-level primordial creatures from the Dark World Group, more than 10,000 high-level primordial creatures, except for Qianlangku. All of them have gone over. The woman in green was quite indignant, continuing, Brother Shuhua, they are your subordinates. They haven't reported this to you, they've collectively gone to pay respects to Daoist Luo Feng, which is somewhat excessive. I think they should be properly reprimanded. The colossal figure smiled slightly. Cheng has already reported to me, and I have permitted them. You've allowed this? The woman couldn't help but say, Brother Shuhua, Daoist Luo Feng indeed has extraordinary potential. But as a fusion Dao cultivator, becoming a world-level primordial life form necessitates sufficient time. Once Luo Feng breaks through, their visit would be considered proper. But now, before Luo Feng has broken out of the braided cage, they are immediately pledging allegiance, which warrants a reprimand. Without rules, how would Brother Shuhua manage tens of thousands of high-level primordial creatures and billions of innate primordial life forms? She has pledged allegiance before breaking out of the braided cage, charmed by her brother's deep bond, so naturally, she stands by her brother's side. The brother, at the world-level primordial life stage, had cultivated to a late phase, with considerable accumulation, overseeing over 100 world groups, with the favor of Lord Yuan. More than 60,000 high-level primordial creatures and over 3 billion subordinate innate high-level primordial life forms all followed his command. The seven lords are high above. The genuine affairs of the cultivator camp are mostly handled by 237 world-level primordials, each wielding immense power. Take a look at this footage. Shuhua smiled and passed the footage to the woman in green. This? The woman was taken aback upon viewing the footage. The Dark World Group is one of the 100 world groups I oversee. When Daoist Luo Feng broke through, I was the first to get the news. Upon investigation, Ge Yufeiya, they also submitted some intelligence regarding Daoist Luo Feng to me, including this battle footage. Shuhua looked at the woman in green. Daoist Luo Feng will certainly become a world-level primordial. Furthermore, it's estimated it won't take very long. By then, the Dark World Group, as his hometown, will undoubtedly fall under his rule. Shuhua smiled. Let him save some face now. The woman, having viewed the footage, was also stirred. Can one be this strong without breaking out of the braided cage? The woman couldn't help but say. I haven't seen anything like it. Shuhua gently shook his head. Nearly 100 fusion Dao cultivators have appeared in the history of the cultivator camp, but such strength without breaking out of the braided cage I've never heard of. The woman in green also felt pressured. What terror waiting within the future without breaking out of the cage so terrifying now? No wonder Shuhua, with his pride, saved face like this. You said all the over 10,000 high-level primordials of the Dark World Group went except Qianlanku? Shuhua inquired. Yes, I'm sure. The woman nodded. As the first major general under Shuhua, by slightly investigating, those high-level primordial creatures wouldn't dare to deceive. He dares not to go. Shuhua showed a tinge of curiosity, his enormous eyes shimmering with a peculiar light. Interesting. In the quiet room of Qianlanku's cave mansion in the land of origin, the silver-haired three-eyed man, Qianlanku, watched the vast world-level primordial bloodline phantom before him, observing the myriad mysterious secret patterns within. Without breaking out of the cage, they've all gone to collectively pay respects. Qianlanku gazed at the primordial bloodline phantom before him. Do they all believe that the Dark World Group will belong to this Luo Feng in the future? Wrong. The Dark World Group will belong to me. Heavenly Wolf Guest's eyes burned with intensity. Back then, before jumping out of the braided cage, he could comprehend 4 to 5/10 of the high-level primordial bloodline. Later, his spiritual will first jumped out of the braided cage and was personally guided by Senior Yuan. After arriving at the primordial island in the land of origin, with more resources, he quickly comprehended over 7/10 of the high-level primordial bloodline. At that time, he felt the world-level primordial bloodline was too difficult, so he didn't hesitate to rely on the high-level primordial bloodline to jump out of the braided cage. Because he comprehended over 7/10, he soon reached the level of perfection of high-level primordial life. He spent the long years following in comprehending the world-level primordial bloodline. With the thought speed, comprehension, and observational power of high-level primordial life, the difficulty of comprehending the world-level primordial bloodline was greatly reduced. I've already comprehended 6/10 and 8/10 of the world-level primordial bloodline. The 7th tenth is not far off. If I wish, I can now refine the world-level primordial bloodline into my body, spending some time, and can also break through to world-level primordial. Heavenly Wolf Guest was very confident. According to the experiences of the seniors, if a primordial bloodline is comprehended to 7/10, then refining it into the body can directly break through, even reducing memory pollution and will pollution. If comprehended to 5/10, refining it into the body, spending time to dig potential, it can also be achieved. He now reached 6/10 and 8/10, perhaps once refined, can become world-class. Because the so-called 7/10 comprehension is the requirement for certain breakthrough. A little lower actually doesn't pose much of a problem. Exchange for a piece of auxiliary treasure, give it a go, reach 7/10, and then breakthrough. Heavenly Wolf Guest thought. If I become world-level primordial first, the Dark World group will also belong to me, then the tens of thousands of high-level primordial lives will become my subordinates, right? Heavenly Wolf Guest laughed and then thought no more. A fusion Dao cultivator? Haven't even jumped out of the braided cage, how qualified to make him submit? He himself is about to become a member of world-level primordial. This Luo Feng will be at the same level with him in the future. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Luo Feng sent an avatar away from Primordial Island and came to the Purple Jade Lake in the Land of Origin, the agreed meeting place. So many high-level primordial lives. Although Luo Feng knew that over 10,000 high-level primordial lives would visit him, seeing such a bustling group collectively appearing, he still felt a bit stirred. Here he comes. Daoist Luo Feng has arrived. The originally chatting tens of thousands of high-level primordial lives instantly quieted down, turning their heads in unison to face Luo Feng's direction, each with a slight smile and slightly humble demeanor. Luo Feng flew down amidst the gazes of all. A slender old man with a sharp chin and narrow cheeks was the first to welcome him. Greetings, Daoist Luo Feng. The slender old man took the initiative to salute first, followed by tens of thousands of high-level primordial lives saluting in unison, all saying, Greetings, Daoist Luo Feng. I haven't jumped out of the braided cage yet, so I'm not worthy to be called Daoist brother. Luo Feng smiled, let's simply refer to each other as Daoist friend. Cannot be. The slender old man said promptly, world-level primordial is within reach for Daoist brother Luo Feng, naturally should be considered our senior. Daoist brother hasn't jumped out of the braided cage yet and is still willing to see us, is our privilege. For our Dark World group to produce Daoist brother Luo Feng is the honor of the entire Dark World group, and it is our honor. This group of high-level primordial lives, facing Luo Feng, were all very humble. They can, with one avatar, manage a group of submissive innate primordial lives. Their avatar can also become the ancestral god of a giant world, with their bloodline able to proliferate many creatures within the world. Their avatar can assume the responsibility of garrisoning the core holy realm of a group of worlds. Yet facing Luo Feng, each was respectful and humble. Because the more one cultivates, the more they understand the vast gap between high-level primordial life and world-level primordial. Daoist Xuan. Luo Feng looked at the slender old man, who was the first to contact him. Our Dark World group has birthed 13,922 high-level primordial lives. A little fewer when counting the living, there are 12,883. The slender old man realized the issue and immediately said, 12,882 attend today, only one named Heavenly Wolf Guest hasn't come. Luo Feng swept his gaze briefly and confirmed the amount. Indeed, only one was missing. Missing one? If thousands of high-level primordial lives hadn't come, Luo Feng wouldn't have been surprised. He hasn't jumped out of the braided cage and doesn't need all of them to pay him a visit. But only one missing, now that was intriguing. Among our tens of thousands of high-level primordial lives in the Dark World group, the most gifted is this Heavenly Wolf Guest. The slender old man smiled. The rest of us high-level primordial lives have all dug into our bloodline potential to jump out of the braided cage. Only he comprehended more than 7/10 of the high-level primordial bloodline to jump out of the braided cage. Luo Feng understood. He also knew that among high-level primordial lives, those who rely on bloodline comprehension to jump out of the braided cage are 1 in 10,000. Historically within the Dark World group, only Heavenly Wolf Guest emerged this way. Heavenly Wolf Guest indeed has a lot of talent. Being able to comprehend the high-level primordial bloodline to break through, indeed shows exceptional talent. Luophone praised. Perhaps because of that exceptional talent, he also has a bit of arrogance. The slender elder laughed. A woman in golden clothes beside him said, "That lone wolf character often looks down on us, rarely mingles with us. It's fine if he disregards us, but this time when we high-level primordial life forms from the Dark World group collectively came to pay respect to Brother Luophone, he was the only one absent. That's outrageous. More than one of us sent him messages, trying to persuade him." Other high-level primordial life forms also expressed dissatisfaction. No need to force it. Luophone glanced around, smiled, and said, "Everyone, stop standing, please be seated." Of course, Luophone didn't care about such trivial matters with the lone wolf character. To him, his own cultivation was the essence. The attitude of a talented high-level primordial life was just a minor embellishment in his cultivation life. However, Luophone could also see that the lone wolf character was arrogant, and had poor relations with thousands of high-level primordial life forms, indicating he was unsuitable for managing such affairs. "Please, Brother Luophone." Cheng and several others gathered around Luophone, and after Luophone took the lead to sit, the other more than 10,000 high-level primordial life forms then took their seats one by one. Everyone relaxed and started drinking and chatting. Those who genuinely conversed with Luophone were also the strongest, such as Cheng and the others. "What do you high-level primordial life forms usually do?" Luophone asked. "We do everything." Cheng explained with a smile. "The cultivator camp, in the infinite primordial space, various trivial matters ultimately require us high-level primordial life forms to be responsible for." A golden-cloaked woman with 3 purple scales on her forehead smiled and said, "Guarding various holy realms, cultivating billions of worlds creatures along with patrol missions in the infinite primordial space, long-term alert missions, treasure exploration missions, extraction and mining missions, almost all tasks are handled by us high-level primordial life forms. We can't keep up with all the work, many burdensome tasks are overseen by sending avatars to supervise those who have submitted." A grey-robed man said. Luophone understood. In the cultivator camp, only over 80 million high-level primordial life forms have been cultivated. Yet, those who have submitted exceed 50 billion. Even if their life cores are refined, they still require supervision. The high-level primordial life forms in the cultivator camp are each supervisors. The territory commanded by our cultivator camp is too vast. Cheng said, "Without relying on those innate primordial life forms, we cannot manage it." "Indeed, it's not easy." Luophone nodded. "The 7 lords are exalted and cannot handle trivial matters. The lords oversee the safety of the entire cultivator camp. Resisting foreign invasions. The 237 world-level primordials cannot be involved in everything. And those who have not escaped from the braided cage cannot enter the infinite primordial space. The main workers are over 80 million high-level primordial life forms and the more than 50 billion submitted ones. Our group of high-level primordial life forms from the Dark World group are not valued." Cheng said helplessly, "The lone wolf character, the one with the most potential among us, is solitary and completely ignores us. Our days are not easy, and we can only do dirty and tough work." Luophone listened and nodded, then asked, "What is the strength of our high-level primordial life forms from the Dark World group?" "We are struggling to dig into our bloodline potential." Cheng said, "Our strength is generally in the early and middle stages of high-level primordial life. Those who reach the later stage are very few. Reaching perfection in high-level primordial life, apart from the lone wolf character, only the 3 of us." Cheng looked at his 2 companions beside him. "Friend Cheng is stronger than us." The golden-cloaked woman said, "Friend Cheng was initially refined with world-level primordial bloodline and achieved perfection in high-level primordial life, making him hopeful to achieve world-level primordial. Ian Wu Yang dug into high-level primordial bloodline, finally reaching perfection stage. We incorporated new world-level primordial bloodline. With 2 bloodline wills within our bodies, along with memory pollution, I and Wu Yan are unlikely to reach world-level primordial. The hope of me becoming world-level primordial is also very slim. Cheng shook his head, only the lone wolf character. He comprehended the bloodline, thus in a short time achieving perfection as high-level primordial. Among those who comprehend bloodlines, 1 out of several dozen can become world-level primordial. Luo Feng nodded. Of the 237 world-level primordials, as he understood, nearly 100 cultivated from high-level primordial life forms. By the way, how much do you know about the Lords? Luo Feng asked. Cheng, the golden-cloaked woman, and the grey-robed man were slightly startled. Lords? The exalted lords, they dare not say too much. We are all under Lord Yuan. Cheng smiled and said, Lord Yuan is very tolerant of us, and Starlight Lord and Lord Wulan similarly have very tolerant subordinates. As for other lords, they have their own requirements for their subordinates. Luo Feng understood. Yuan, Starlight, Wulan, these 3 lords are all very relaxed in management. The remaining 4 should be much stricter. The other 4 lords have different personalities, among them, Lord Minghuang is the most benevolent. The golden-cloaked woman added a sentence, then didn't say more. After staying long in the land of origin, high-level primordial life forms naturally understand the style of the 7 lords. But no one dares to speak ill of the lords, since saying a single word results in causality, and the lords will know. However, lords usually don't mind. For these high-level primordial life forms, the 7 lords are all-knowing and endlessly powerful, protecting the entire cultivator camp. The lords each have different personalities, and occasionally there are contradictions among them, but it's not up to these high-level primordial life forms and world-level primordial life forms to question them. Luo Feng listened. Yuan, Starlight, Wulan, tolerant of their subordinates. Lord Minghuang is benevolent. What about the remaining Golden Lord and the other 2? Starlight Lord is the only one who breaks laws with force, Luo Feng inquired. Do you know how long it took for Starlight Lord to break laws with force? Before Starlight Lord jumped out of the braided cage, I was already a high-level primordial life, Cheng laughed, so I know the exact time well. Back then, Starlight Lord was at an invincible level and also a fusion Dao cultivator and was guided to the primordial island. He also lived in that cave mansion on the mountain top. Luo Feng nodded. He lived there for a very long time, 12 trillion epochs before breaking through. He should be the longest residing fusion Dao cultivator in Primordial Island in history, Cheng said. 12 trillion epochs. Luo Feng was also taken aback. This is the time recognized by the outside world. If Lord Starlight also used the time acceleration of the quiet room in the cave mansion back then, it would likely have taken even longer. Nowadays, the time acceleration of the cave mansion can permanently maintain a million-fold acceleration. It was even set up by Starlight Lord. Before Starlight Lord jumped out of the braided cage, the time acceleration should be far less than it is now. Yes, during his stay, there was another fusion Dao cultivator that appeared. At that time, another mountain rose on the primordial island, and a second cave mansion was built, Cheng said. From the time spent, Luo Feng could see the difficulty of breaking laws with force. For a life form before jumping out of the braided cage to comprehend the primordial spacetime path, it is too difficult and time-consuming. Do you know anything more about Starlight Lord's method of breaking laws with force? Luo Feng asked. Having lived in the land of origin for a long time, they should know many rumored secrets. I've heard, before Starlight Lord jumped out of the braided cage, he already had a way to reincarnate into other source worlds, the golden-dressed woman also said. He seemed to reside in the primordial island cave mansion for 12 trillion epochs, but for most of that time, he was likely reincarnated in various source worlds. I've also heard that Starlight Lord once applied for a world-level primordial servant, which means a subjugated world-level primordial life form, the grey-robed man said. At that time, the news of him applying for a world-level primordial servant only emerged after he broke through. That servant was a submissive innate world-level primordial life form, and now that world-level primordial servant is heavily employed by Starlight Lord. It's the world-level primordial, Kaya 2, Cheng also nodded. I know about this as well. Kaya 2 is highly valued by Starlight Lord. What did Starlight Lord apply for a world-level primordial servant for? Luo Feng asked. Applying for a world-level primordial servant are of course those who are captured and subjugated. But the cost of applying is still extremely high, requiring as much as 5 million reward points. Fusion Dao cultivators would think twice before exchanging for it. It said that it was for exploration in the infinite primordial space. Starlight Lord, before jumping out of the braided cage, was full of curiosity about the infinite primordial space, reportedly visiting many very special and mysterious places. Weaker servants didn't have the ability to go, so he specifically selected a world-level primordial servant. Kaya 2 is also skilled in space-time-related abilities. Cheng and the others talked. Early on these were secrets, but after Starlight Lord broke laws with force, these gradually got revealed. From these traces, Luo Feng could also infer some of the ways Starlight Lord broke laws with force. On his own, he could reincarnate multiple times into the source worlds, sending avatars and the world-level primordial servant, Kaya 2, to explore and cultivate long-term in the infinite primordial space. Luo Feng thought. Moreover, he spent a total of about 12 trillion epochs before he finally broke laws with force. Luo Feng was certain in his heart. Some information is not recorded in the official data of the land of origin. But these high-level primordial life forms, having lived here for a long time, have heard many rumors. Luo Feng drank and talked with them for a long time, finally truly understanding the entire cultivator camp. Now, he had a clear grasp of the operation of the camp's order. He also learned about some past conflicts and wars between the cultivator camp and the innate primordial life camp. Even the tempers of the Seven Lords became clearer to Luo Feng. Luo Feng returned to the cave mansion at the mountain top of Primordial Island. Starlight Lord spent 12 trillion epochs to break laws with force, so if I want to break laws with force, I must first have enough patience and not be in a hurry. Luo Feng was now more psychologically prepared. He was ready for long-term cultivation. The foundation must be sufficiently solid. Luo Feng sat cross-legged in the quiet room. Among the more than 800 million types of low-level primordial bloodlines, those with life type, destruction type, and both life and death, there are a total of over 56.03 million types of low-level primordial bloodlines. I will start anew, and for each of these 56.03 million types of low-level primordial bloodlines and corpse materials, I will conduct secret pattern completion, thoroughly researching each one. Luo Feng was not in a hurry to create the primordial level life and death Dao, instead choosing to first study the weakest low-level primordial bloodlines, thus beginning his first secluded cultivation at the land of origin. Luo Feng continued using the poverty-style comprehension method first. He comprehended fragments like a scale, a tendon, a piece of flesh, a droplet of blood, and other scattered materials, integrating the secret patterns observed from these fragments into the most perfect form in his mind. Then he compared it with the primordial bloodline. This cave mansion constructed by the Lords nourished the soul and physical body, allowing Luo Feng's mental processing speed to reach a 1,000-fold level compared to the dark sacred realm. Additionally, by taking some treasures, he could easily achieve a 10,000-fold mental speed. Under the 10,000-fold mental speed, coupled with a realm much higher than before, even meticulous comprehension allowed him to fully understand 100 types of low-level primordial bloodlines within one era. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of primordial bloodlines, Luo Feng comprehended more and more primordial bloodlines. Finally, one day, the bloodline mysteries I integrated are more perfect than these primordial bloodlines. Luo Feng found himself attempting to improve upon what he realized had begun to surpass the original structure of those low-level primordial bloodlines. Naturally nurtured ones aren't necessarily the best. These are, after all, low-level primordial lives, and there are still some flaws with them. The mysteries of this low-level primordial bloodline have too many flaws. I've discovered dozens of them. Over time, Luo Feng went from only finding one or two flaws at the beginning to discovering dozens of flaws later on. Sometimes, with just a glance, Luo Feng could spot numerous flaws in the low-level primordial bloodlines. Flaws made them weak. made them only at early stage of Divine Emperor or middle stage of Divine Emperor strength among low-level primordial lives. Too many flaws. Still, high-level primordial bloodline is interesting. It's much more exquisite. After finally researching all the low-level primordial bloodlines, when he began to study high-level primordial bloodlines, Luo Feng felt a jolt of spirit. The mysteries of high-level primordial bloodlines revealed many new insights that he had never thought of, broadening his horizons. Luo Feng seemed like a devout student, time and again learning many new mysteries of life and destruction during the secret pattern comparison. During this cultivation process, Luo Feng was mostly enthusiastic. Even if he occasionally felt tired, he would return to his hometown source world to relax with family and friends before continuing his comprehension and cultivation. Infinite Primordial Space, Jade River World Group. This world group, with the most core Jade River Sacred Realm, was completely shattered, like an egg being eaten more than halfway through, leaving only some remains, some scraps still floating in the infinite primordial space. This vast world group contained billions of worlds and numerous source worlds. Many of the billions of worlds have already been breached, and the life within naturally became extinct. As for the source worlds, many source worlds have already been completely destroyed. Life became completely extinct, with the source world entering a new cycle. This was still considered good. Many source worlds had completely disappeared, devoured to the point of nothing left. 7 terrifying figures stood within the vast infinite primordial space. Standing there, they naturally attracted the attention of many forces within the infinite primordial space. Each of them possessed the highest level of power and understood the essence of this power. Each of them had a seat in the land of eternity, and when the 7 of them joined forces, they became a terrifying force that caused all sides to change color. The primordial ancestors temporarily retreated. Their 7 faces did not look good. They joined forces with 75 primordial ancestors to deal with the 7 of us. A creature with deep cyan skin stood there, sighed softly. Even when we joined forces, we were at a disadvantage. We could only watch helplessly as the innate primordial life army attacked the source worlds and countless worlds. The deep cyan-skinned creature shook its head and sighed. The primordial ancestors constrained us, relying on their massive army to attack recklessly. Their massive army, with numbers incalculable, left us helpless. In this battle, we saw no hope at all. It was a sure loss. Naijiu, shut up. The silver-scaled Lord Jin, with 12 pointed horns on his head and a long-scaled tail, roared in anger. To swallow up the world groups of our cultivated territory, their primordial ancestors must be ready to fight with their lives. In this war so far, we've also taken down 3 primordial ancestors. I want to see how many more they are willing to lose. I agree with Jin. A tall, thin man wearing a black cloak smiled slightly. After all, wars cause losses. Losing some source worlds, losing billions of worlds. In the future, infinite primordial space will still nurture new source worlds, and we can also create billions of new worlds. We need not care about losses. We must let the entire infinite primordial space know that daring to provoke our cultivator camp will incur a terrible price. We must come up with an idea. Yuan frowned. Just watching them conquer world groups one after another isn't a solution. Every world group has cost us endless efforts. For each world group that has been managed for many long years, the lords have invested much effort. There are arrangements in every source world. Every ordinary world must be created, and creatures must be propagated. Time-space transmission network, alert network, excavated resources everywhere. Starlight, do you have any idea? The largest built Wulan looked at a middle-aged man. Starlight Lord, having forms from young child to elderly, because he had reincarnated in too many source worlds, had a variety of appearances and races. In terms of methods, Starlight undoubtedly had the most among the 7 lords. The innate primordial life camp, the primordial ancestors have very diverse personalities and many contradictions among themselves. Starlight Lord said, this time, they got 80% of the primordial ancestors to participate, a total of 93 ancestors in the battle. We've killed 3 so far. Among the remaining 90 ancestors, they often take turns during battles. The severely injured ones withdraw to recuperate while other lords step up. Is there a way to kill another primordial ancestor? Wulan asked. Immediately, the other 5 lords also turned their gaze towards Starlight. Starlight, an avatar, is constantly walking in different timelines of the future, always observing the entire infinite primordial space. He is the observer and recorder of the past, present, and future of the infinite primordial space. Fighting with us until now, the primordial ancestors have suffered many losses and gained much experience. Starlight gently shook his head, relying on the 7 of us. It's already very difficult to kill another primordial ancestor. More than 70 primordial ancestors targeting 7 lords seem to have the upper hand. But the power of the lords cannot be stopped by sheer numbers. Unknowingly, they can make those primordial ancestors injured, and the injuries are quite troublesome. With enough accumulation, a primordial ancestor may even fall. I must also tell you, in this war, too many of our territories have fallen. The world-level primordial life in the innate primordial life camp, because they have consumed too much source world origin, should give birth to several new primordial ancestors, said the Starlight Lord. New primordial ancestors to be born again. The lords present were all quite troubled. Source world origin is the delicacy most craved by the innate primordial life camp. When the world-level primordials consume too much, there is a slight possibility of breaking through to become a primordial ancestor. Let's return to rest first, Yuan said. The primordial ancestors have temporarily retreated. Surely they will rest well and only attack again when fully recovered. We should also take this time to rest. The lords present all nodded. An individual primordial ancestor does not concern them. But the siege of over 70 primordial ancestors, all mastering the highest level power, makes each of the 7 lords suffer injuries. The primordial ancestors have replacements to conduct rounds of battle. But the 7 of them have no replacements. This also makes them somewhat mentally fatigued. Huff. The 7 of them return together. They are not worried about sneak attacks from the innate primordial life camp. 1 or 2 primordial ancestors skilled in concealment might manage a sneak attack, but the power of over 70 primordial ancestors is diverse, making it impossible to conceal any movement. The lords can detect it in the first instance. With Starlight's mastery in space-time, he would also intercept in advance. We have invested so many resources, yet no new lords have appeared. The tall, slender man in a black cloak gently shook his head. I have always felt that a lord cannot be created by throwing resources. There must be enough tempering. Giving too many resources is actually harmful. I agree with what Mo Man said, only harsh tempering can produce strong ones. Giving too many resources? That results in a bunch of useless ones, the Golden Lord also said. There's no need to argue about how to cultivate cultivators, Yuan said. We'll establish a new cultivation method in the next era. Lord Mo Man and the Golden Lord said no more. By the way, recently, there's a fusion Dao cultivator named Luo Feng, Yuan said with a smile. His talent is quite good. Oh? Can he become a master of the source world without relying on bloodline? Wu Lan inquired. Yuan shook his head. He estimates that he still needs to refine the bloodline. Once he refines the bloodline, there's no hope, the woman in the golden robe said indifferently. There's no hope. Lord Nijiu nodded. I comprehend the primordial bloodline Dao, the bloodline will and pollution, so I can remain uninfluenced. Is this Luo Feng not cultivating the bloodline path? He follows the life and death Dao. Yuan nodded in acknowledgement. There's no hope, Nijiu shook his head. The other lords were also somewhat disappointed, except for the Starlight Lord, who had a hint of curiosity in his eyes. The past is set, the present is unfolding, and the future holds infinite possibilities. The Starlight Lord has numerous avatars in different future timelines. As reality changes, some future timelines will completely collapse and be extinguished, indicating that this future possibility has vanished entirely. They underestimated Luo Feng. The childlike Starlight Lord left some of the collapsed and extinguished timelines, walking through other future timelines. I have observed over 30 million possibilities for Luo Feng, and I have seen 9 possibilities of him becoming a lord. On the path of refining the world-level primordial bloodline, he becomes a world-level primordial. Subsequently, under the influence of will pollution and memory pollution, he abandons the original Tao and starts over. Forcibly comprehending the primordial life and death Tao, that Tao is filled with endless destruction and pollution. Even after refining the bloodline, he still becomes a lord. I have seen him succeed only this once. Using the power-breaking technique, I saw him succeed 8 times. Starlight Lord's eyes were full of expectation. Among the 237 world-level primordials in the Cultivator camp, in future timelines, there is occasionally a possibility of them becoming lords. The future may happen, just as it may not happen. Over 30 million times, being able to succeed 9 times. The potential is very high. He is currently the highest among the younger generation. The Starlight Lord had hopeful anticipation. This episode is end here.